Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another No Cap Space post game show. It's an ISO tonight from your boy. We got a sore throat. Shawnee has boots on the ground for us right now with post game coverage uploading to the YouTube right now. I believe as we speak from South Carolina and Duke. So it's an ISO tonight. What a day of hoops! Look, hopefully you're celebrating your own team winning today. And the best way to do that is by using code NOCAT15 to get 15% off your first order at Home Field. Use the link down below in the description. Get your Christmas presents. You haven't Christmas shopped. It's okay. We got you covered. Man, where to start? Let's start with LSU. Hello, Stanford. I was unfamiliar with the game. Look, we talked to Kate Pay. We interviewed her here on this channel, the Stanford head coach. By no means did the standard change for Stanford when Tara Vanderveer retired. It never changed. Obviously, there was a little bit of different philosophies here and there, but ultimately the foundation of Stanford never changed, even with Tara retiring, with Kate Pay on the sideline. And tonight was a game that served as a reminder that you still can't sleep on Stanford. They looked fantastic, especially Nunu Agara. Oh my goodness. Look, there is some great post players on that LSU team, and they were non-existent tonight. And that had a lot to do with what Stanford was doing. Phenomenal play. But ultimately, the perimeter play from LSU. Look, Barack Obama, you're on it. Michaela Williams decided that LSU was going to win this game. And at that point, there was nothing that Stanford could do. Hits the shot to send it into overtime. Hits the three to seal the game for this. And also, Kaylin Gilbert with 25 off the bench. She was the hero on Flow Hoops. She was one of the heroes tonight. LSU led this game basically just for overtime. They led at the very, very beginning of this game and trailed the rest of the way. And yet the superstars in Michaela Williams. Kaylin Gilbert has been playing like a superstar off the bench. She's the best bench player in the nation right now. I love this. This car right here, MPD, killers. Absolutely. And that's not even getting, and Flausier had 21, which is obviously nothing to scoff at either. Like, we've known for a while with Stanford that the post play is where it's at. And the guard play has been the weakness, especially as they get into March and they play against teams from the SEC. And they were missing a little bit from their perimeter play. But ultimately, this has been the story with Stanford. So really, the outcome of the game and it being this close is a surprise. But how we got there really isn't. Like, this has kind of been the Stanford thing for a while now. But goodness, what a game. Let me know in the comments. I'm interested. Since it's just me, we're really chatting it up today. The out of bounds. Do we feel like that was out at the end of regulation? Do we feel like that was out on Flausier? Or did they make the right call and say it was out on Stanford? There was so much going on with the games. I got like one good look at the replay. And so like this is not like a solidified opinion for me personally. I thought it was out on Flausier off one quick look, but like ultimately like I didn't get great eyes on it. But one of the key factors here going down the stretch was the fact that LSU had used all their timeouts with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So this replay gives them a timeout, and they end up being able to draw up a play from Michaela Williams. And I'm not even necessarily saying like home cooking or anything like that. I'm not even getting into any of that. But that was the biggest factor. Obviously, who got the ball was the biggest factor. But adding that in, LSU gets the ball and they got a whole free timeout. And man, do they make use of it. And ultimately, when you are a team that is an underdog in this way, you got to get it done in regulation, man. Once it gets into overtime, it is you are trying to swim upriver. And that is what happened with Stanford in overtime. They just ran out of gas, man. But what a performance. Like, I'm on notice now. And it's a completely different formula from the rest of the ACC. The ACC is the most guard-heavy conference in the nation. So it can kind of go, and it really might be a game-by-game thing with Stanford, but there's really two ways it can kind of go right now for Stanford, is that your bigs can dominate against a weaker position group in the ACC, or your guards can get cooked in a stronger position group in the ACC. But man, what a game. What a game. I'm telling you, like, I'm still just stuck with Michaela Williams. 32 points, 9 rebounds, 12 of 18 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3, and did it when it mattered most. I mean, that's a superstar. There's no other. That's a superstar. And LSU is a team with multiple. Like, this was an incredible performance from her. On a night where there were several sophomores on showcase mode tonight, Michaela Williams arguably shined the most out of all of them. And for the post play for LSU, we got over Thanksgiving week. I felt like we had a pretty good idea. Like, okay, one thing about LSU, and this still is true, is that it's probably going to be. It's feeling like it's going to be one or the other a lot of times between the post play and the perimeter play. I don't know if they've, off the top of my head, had a game where really both position groups are rolling completely. And it's honestly kind of odd how kind of one way or the other it can be at times. But that's kind of a luxury in a way for LSU. Like, obviously you want everything clicking all at once, and that is the goal. But to be able to rely on different players, like, there's going to be a game, I'm sure, where Anissa Morrow is the one that takes them to the promised land. And tonight, I mean, she got 16 rebounds. I don't want to sleep on that, but only 8 points on 4 of 12 shooting. Not great. Not great. So I'm just, there's a lot to digest from this game. And obviously LSU is exhaling a very deep exhale. But man, this is, I'm very intrigued with Stanford going forward. Man, I'm very intrigued with Stanford and figuring out what's next for them, because this is, let's see, what's the rest of the non-con? Does Stanford have any more like real kind of non-con games? Oh no, it's straight into it. Oh wait, never mind. I forgot Cal. So they have an ACC game, and then they do play Ohio State towards the end of December. So that'll be another good one. Just another great test. Hopefully, I don't think Cody's back yet, so hopefully Cody's back by then. But I'm put the eye emojis on Stanford. I'm intrigued. I'm not gonna certainly I'm not jumping out the window for any type of hot take with Stanford, but this is obviously a really, really solid performance in a tough environment. I'm intrigued. And LSU escaped completely. They survived, which is a skill in its own right. But obviously, especially if Stanford ends up not being as great as, this game might lead you to believe, this might be one we look at and we're like, really? Stanford? But right now, I'm taking that as it is. I'm going to give Stanford their credit. LSU, ultimately, it always goes to tell in conference play in the SEC. So even though they have a weak non-conference schedule, everything, it all comes to light in conference play. One way or the other. It could be fantastic results. It could be terrible results for all. I mean, we don't know yet. But it'll all come to light in SEC play. But this feels like a game that you can lean back on. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, Michaela Williams, Kaylin Gilbert. Gilbert has been a incredible piece off the bench for them so far this season. I'm so impressed. Like I said, if they can just get it all clicking, they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. The refs here. Let me put this comment up. The refs gift them games in conference play too. It's happened 2 years in a row for them. Be honest. I mean, like I said, I literally just said that I didn't get a great look at the replays to have an opinion one way or the other on the out of bounds aspect. So, but I mean, yeah, it's not like, I mean, the refs always seem to come into play at home at LSU in one way or another, whichever way they make the call. It just kind of seems to happen. Like, so, I mean, what are we supposed to do about that? So, but yeah, incredible game for that. That wasn't even like on the docket for us to talk about tonight. You can look at the thumbnail. LSU wasn't on there, but this game turned into an incredible one. Also, I did want to put this out from TJ. Cal upset Bama. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that one. I don't have any like takes on it right now because there was too many games going on at once. But I'm gonna be on that because Cal is a team that over Thanksgiving week also impressed. I was very intrigued by some of the things I saw with them, and obviously that's a great win. An ACC SEC game in California is disgusting, but I need to go back and watch that game because I'm intrigued. Like, I need to figure out what happened 100%. So I don't have any takes on that right now. I will be coming back to that, and I will be watching that game as soon as I can because I need to know what happened. Let's move on, though. We'll hit – we're going to go LSU, we'll go South Carolina, Duke, and then we'll go North Carolina, Kentucky, and then we're going to end off with Notre Dame, Texas because we got to talk about Notre Dame, Texas. But South Carolina, Duke. South Carolina is just fine, y'all. No worries. I'll tell you right now, that Duke second half was my biggest takeaway. Was that Duke has this ability to also do this. Look, man, you see the OU logos. I know what happened with Duke when they played Oklahoma over Thanksgiving week, that overtime win and that insane game. This feels like the most offense that Duke has had, and kind of consistent bucket getting potential. But you got to do it against the best. And ultimately, and we had said this before, Duke and TCU get the South Carolina litmus test. And I don't think they failed. That second half, they looked solid. And admittedly, there was minutes against the backups and everything, but South Carolina's backups are starters on 99% of the nation. So, like, and the lead it's not like South Carolina went on a run when the starters came back in. My biggest takeaway is absolutely that Duke second half and seeing that there is a legitimate team with Duke. They just got to be able to do it for 40 minutes against the best. And they weren't able to do that tonight. And it's really kind of what it came down to. And I think Carol Lawson said the same in the postgame. It's like they can't get off to a start like that. It was just too big of a hole to dig out of. But for South Carolina, I mean, Chloe Kitts, y'all. Like, the question has been, who is going to be the big for South Carolina? Who's going to be the one to step up this season with, like, I mean, we've harped on it. This is the first time in about a decade that South Carolina has not had a dominant back to the basket big. They've had the just insane dynasty of them, from Asia to Aaliyah to Camilla, like just a ridiculous dynasty with really no drop off at all. Chloe is not a back to the basket big, but you can work with 21 and 11 on 9 for 14 shooting. That'll do. Poor. I felt Toby Fournier, the freshman for Duke, who I think is going to be phenomenal. I felt terrible. It was just nonstop. There was a big, and then one subs out, another subs in, and then one subs out, another subs in. Like, goodness. I felt awful for her. But, I mean, I still just kind of feel like it's different with South Carolina. My opinion on South Carolina hasn't changed. It's different. It is a more volatile way to win basketball games compared to having a back-to-the-basket dominant big when you're relying more on some of your perimeter play. But if Chloe Kitts can do this, that certainly eases some of that reliance, but it's different. That doesn't mean it's bad. And there have been better South Carolina teams. Yes, absolutely. I think and this is something I personally struggle with, is am I comparing South Carolina to those old South Carolina teams, or am I comparing South Carolina to other teams right now in the nation? And while South Carolina is not the best, this is not the best South Carolina team we've ever seen. No, it's not. But to the other teams of the nation, they're still the standard right now. Like they are the blueprint at this moment. Now, obviously, there's other ones that you can say as well. You look at a UConn. UCLA is obviously the team to beat right now. But still, ultimately, South Carolina is still, you can say, they're the standard. And tonight they played like standard bearers. Like it was just a relatively smooth win. I still, and it's something that I know we talked about on here before. I want to find comfortability for Mylasia for Wiley, and it was a rough night for her tonight. 1-7, had the huge block, which was tough, and made the lone shot where all her teammates came and hyped her up, which was cool. But just finding that way to get her the most comfortability. She played the least minutes in the entire game tonight. Like just finding that way to maximize Mylasia and whatever that role ends up being is super interesting to me. And I don't really know what the answer to that is, besides just kind of allowing her to play through things. And I think that would have happened more had Duke not made the second half comeback. But I am just intrigued by that. However, Maddie McDaniel has been a pleasant surprise off the bench for South Carolina as another guard. So it might just, frankly, it might be where maybe Maddie is more of the guard type of fit that Don wants off the bench for this team, potentially. Because they're just different. They had different roles. And that's why I'll be really kind of interested in monitoring going forward, is how, I mean, realistically, South Carolina plays so many players and they rotate so much that it really could just be a game-by-game basis. But that's something I'm interested in looking at going forward, is how do their minutes look? McDaniel had 16 tonight, Mylasia had 15. So, I mean, it's basically even. So, there's no, like, real takeaway from this. But Maddie McDaniel has been really solid. It's been a pleasant surprise. So, I'm very interested in seeing that. But ultimately, tonight, Chloe Kitts continues to be the one that looks like she's going to lead the way for South Carolina this season. I think on some nights it'll be Tahina Paopao. I think on some nights it might be Tessa Johnson. But on the most consistent basis, I think it's looking like Chloe Kitts. And it's different, but different doesn't mean bad. Different does not mean bad. I do want to talk about North Carolina, Kentucky real quick, and then we're going to get into the thriller that was Notre Dame, Texas. Kentucky loses by 19. Loses by 19. I thought they were going to win this game, to be quite honest with you. I'm pretty well surprised that North Carolina won. I'm more surprised they won by 19. This was the first time that Claire Strack, who I've written about in 5 Out several times now, twice, I've written about this Kentucky team, right? The first time my eyebrows really raised with Kentucky was when they beat Louisville. Because Louisville, I don't know where to set the ceiling and the floor with them because of how much they rely on their youth. But I'm high on Louisville. Like I think they are a very, very good team. Like I said, we'll see where the ceiling and floor lies, but regardless, my eyes raised at Kentucky when they won that game. Then Claire Strack really starts popping off. And Tiani Key doesn't exactly fill up the stat sheet in the same way, but the impact is there. Today, it was in the afternoon. I was working. Claire Strack scores 4 points, only has 4 rebounds. Like it's just not what had been happening. And UNC was not the team I thought would be the one to stop it. And also Georgia Amore, the shooting struggles have just been crazy. And if she can't get those splits up, I don't think Kentucky can like they have to have that perimeter attack from Georgia. And right now it's just not falling. Like the percentages are not great from deep at all. And that was it kind of reared its head today when your younger players kind of like this is the first time we've seen Strack who it really kind of hit any type of slump at all. Like she just kind of hit the ground running this season. And we didn't really see it. Like Georgia Amore ends up with 10 points, 4-12, 0-5 from 3, 8 assists, which is still remained, but just the shooting splits have not been great percentage wise. And you got to get that up. Like this is the foundation year for this program under Kenny Brooks. Obviously Georgia Amore is presumably going to be at least attempting to get into the WNBA. We'll see where she ends up in the draft. It hasn't been a great start to the season for her. And I think SEC play, like, certainly the competition ain't going to get any easier. So now is the time. And it just hasn't happened yet. I've just been kind of waiting, and it just hasn't happened yet. But for UNC, I mean, that's a big win. Like I said, I didn't think they really had, frankly, much of a chance. Like I had been high on Kentucky. I was drinking the Kentucky Kool-Aid. Like I was down for the cause, and it got bad. Like it got really bad. Genuinely, this is a great point, TJ. Let's look at the points in the paint, because this is insane to me. This is what I was kind of getting at with the Kentucky bigs. Not only did they not produce, they didn't defend. North Carolina had 42 points in the paint. Kentucky, 10. Kentucky had 10. That's not good. It's not. So, I don't know, man. I just gotta kind of eat it on this one, bro. Like I'm shocked. This is not how I expected this one to go at all. We'll see how Kentucky bounces back now. This is their first loss of the season. Like, it's just they just gotta be better. But there's kind of just no way around it. They gotta be better. But a big win for UNC in a game that, like I said, I did not expect to be. I thought Kentucky was gonna win. Like, just plain and simple. Let's talk Texas and Notre Dame. My goodness, what a game of basketball. Me and Greer were talking earlier today after, I'll give y'all a scoop. After our interview with Harvard's Harmony Turner, which will be dropping next week, she was fantastic. I can't wait for y'all to see this. We were chatting up after, and we were talking about, like, hey, who do we think is going to win? And my kind of thing was, obviously, I think these two teams are very close talent-wise. But Texas doesn't feel like a team you bounce back against. They felt like they were just going to wear you down. This isn't someone you regain your composure against. Just not. Texas shouldn't allow you to do that. Not a Vic Schaefer team. I was wrong. The energy from Hannah Hidalgo throughout this game, and this is something I asked her about when we had boots on the ground at the USC game. She brings so much energy, and they have pointed out in the broadcast as well. She's the leader of this team. That's a sophomore. That is the leader of this team. When she claps, her teammates clap. When she's a basketball sicko. It's the last play of the game, and she's just cheesing. She's having the time of her life being in a moment that is so incredibly high pressure, and she lives for it. She's a basketball sicko, and I love it. I love it so incredibly much. She might be, I think, on a personal level, she's probably my favorite player to watch in the nation right now. There's certainly other players to make arguments for. There's plenty of fun players across the nation. But, my goodness, no one does it like Hannah Hidalgo, y'all. I'm just so incredibly impressed. Like, especially after getting to see it in person, like, and watching on the broadcast, it's easier to pick up on things. And the broadcast did a great job of like showcasing that today. But to dive into this game, just in general, the biggest story of this game for me was Notre Dame playing in zone, right? And I tweeted this out as well during the game, but Notre Dame felt like they were covering so much more room than a zone normally would because of how active their hands are. And when they started trapping in the corners, it was just so congested the entire time. Like, and Texas already doesn't have good spacing, right? Madison Booker does not shoot the three ball. Roy Harmon does not shoot the three ball. Shea Holley, she damn near had a legacy game. I thought in the first half we were getting the Shea Holley legacy game, which I would have been here for. I've been a Shea Holley truther from, I mean, look, Big 12 tournament days, like I've been going there for years now covering those. I've been a Shea Holley truther. That slowed down after the first half. I really think this game came down to when both teams were playing each other tough, the potential for offense when Notre Dame kicked out to a perimeter player versus when Texas kicked out to a perimeter player, Notre Dame's potential to do something was just so much higher than Texas's. And I really think that made the difference in the way that they were able to attack off of that. And I can't emphasize this enough. Notre Dame went into overtime, ran it up in overtime. Like there was, they just kind of hit the ground running with 6 players. They're still missing starting caliber players. Matty Westbeld is still on that bench right now. Like there is more coming on the way. There's reinforcements on the way. And they're winning games like this. I had said that I felt that Notre Dame is much more like the USC Notre Dame than the Flow Hoops Notre Dame. Because the Flow Hoops curse is real. I'm sitting in it now. The Flow Hoops curse is real. But it has been exercised today for Notre Dame against a team that I didn't think you rebound against after coming off losses like that. Instead, they did exactly that. It did exactly that. I also, we got to talk about Madison Booker as well. 20 points in this, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, a block. The defense was there. Like, I mean, the sophomore, I mean, we know about the freshman class, man. Like, we know. They were talking on the broadcast, like, Madison Booker looks like the most pro-ready player on the court. Just by looking at her. Can't argue against that. Not going to get any debate from me on that. The mid-range is deadly. Like, it really, really is. But I will say, one thing about Madison Booker that I think I'm still waiting to see just a little bit. And we saw it a little bit in freshman year. I want to see the switch flip at times. And I don't know if I've really gotten that feeling. Like what we saw Michaela Williams do at LSU, like it was like Michaela Williams decided that LSU was not going to lose that game. It feels like Hannah Hidalgo's switch is always on. I don't know if we've really seen like a moment, like if Madison Booker has had the moment where the switch is flipped. She's ridiculously talented. I just don't know. And maybe that's more a product of the system of Texas, right? And in the way that they go about doing things. But I want to see the switch flip and just a takeover. And I know like the Oklahoma game last year was super close. She dominated the Big 12 championship. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. And I really could just be missing a game right now. But yeah, like thinking about just tonight's game in a vacuum, like I was kind of waiting to see that. And it didn't really happen. But ultimately, like it's still an incredible game from Booker. Like it is. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it really just kind of came down to kind of a lack of offense from Texas in the long run. Like, and not necessarily lack of offense, but lack of spacing on offense, where life was just difficult for them. And Notre Dame made their life difficult. But man, the trio of Hidalgo, Miles, and Sonia Citron, like ridiculous. I need Sonia Let me know in the chat where y'all want Sonya to go in the draft. But I can't help that she is a perfect Indiana Fever. Or Chicago Sky. I would imagine Chicago. I would personally go point guard if I was Chicago. I mean, it depends on how the rest of the way goes. But the Fever for sure. If they can get her, like that fit is phenomenal. Phenomenal for Sonya. So I can't wait to see that. But to close out here, I still feel like Hannah Hidalgo is not in the conversation as much as she should be. Before I do that, let's talk about Roy Harmon. Let's get a chat indicator as well. Was that a foul at the end on Notre Dame for Roy Harmon? Because that shot from Olivia was crazy. By the way, that finish was tough. And then they called the foul like. I don't know. But honestly, it gave us more hoops in that game, so I wasn't too mad at it. And if it wasn't a foul, Notre Dame ended up winning anyways. So, I'm not tripping. But that finish from Olivia, we've seen her be clutch before. Not surprised to see them go to her again. That's Olivia Miles, man. That's what she does. She's incredible. She really is. And my favorite development from this season so far, as well, from an individual player, is the Olivia Miles three-pointer. With 2 of 4 today. I love it. And she told us in our interview, which you can find here on the channel, the three was the main thing. Because, frankly, if she ends up being a Chicago Sky, she doesn't need to space the floor. And she understands that. Really, even if she ends up being a spark, that's going to be a massive aspect to her game that she's going to have to continue to work on. But this season, it's been phenomenal. It's been really, really great. At a decent clip too, a decent volume. I'm very impressed. And she told us about it here in the preview to the season as well. So that's why you gotta stay tapped in with us. We try and get you going. We try and let you know what happens before it happens. Look, it's a wrap again. Hannah Hidalgo. Paige Beckers is Paige Beckers. No, that is a hooper. Juju Watkins is Juju Watkins. That is a hooper. There is no conversation in my eyes that involves Paige Beckers, that involves Juju Watkins, that Hannah Hidalgo cannot be involved in. They are in the same tier. Hannah is ridiculous. Hannah, the energy is there, like we've said. The defense is obviously there. The flair, the fun. We saw the over-the-head pass. It's all there. That's one of the best basketball players in the nation. And for my money, she has a very strong National Player of the Year case right now. It's between her and Paige for me right now. And I just want to make sure as we continue, as we go into this season, and maybe it's just my timeline, maybe I'm not seeing the right conversations, but Hannah Hidalgo is in the top tier basketball players in the country right now. And there's no conversation that she is out of place in. That's where I'll leave us tonight. Big weekend ahead. I got boots on the ground at TCU for South Carolina game. I'll be there. I got your post game there. I got your press conferences there. Whatever goes down, I got you covered from Fort Worth. Like I said, I'm not going to say who in case anything happens, but we do have an interview tomorrow that I'm very excited about. Very, very excited about. And that will be on the way soon. But we do have Harvard's Harmony Turner, who's been one of the best players in the nation so far, dropping next week. I think I'm later next week. We just recorded it today. So be on the lookout for that. So you got to subscribe here so you know. Substack as well, nocapspacewbb.com. We're close to 1,000 subscribers. We just hit 2,000 here today, which is such an incredible achievement for us. Like we were celebrating in our group chat. It was phenomenal. We're so incredibly thankful for that. So we're coming up on a year, y'all. It was early February. We started No Cap Space. We're coming up on a year. We're trying to hit all the milestones before that. So hit nocapspacewbb.com. Hit the subscribe here, like here, comment here, all the above. I will see y'all this weekend with post-game coverage from TCU in South Carolina. I'll see y'all next time.